Hey, what's going on, guys? So today we're talking about Machina Infinitrack deck. This actually got first place over the weekend. So Starlight Games in Grand Rapids, Michigan actually had a case tournament with a fairly solid turnout. Obviously, everybody was properly social distancing themselves and wearing masks and this, that, and the other. But there was actually a 40-person turnout, and this is the deck that got first place. There were 5 rounds of Swiss, and it was, this was a deck I actually featured a couple weeks ago on Dueling Book Commentary, and I mentioned that could this be a solid, rogue deck option. I think it was taking on, Virtual World or something like that at the time, right? And so both of those decks actually are good examples of not only, a good rogue option, but also, a fairly budget rogue option. I mean, you look at Heavy Forward's like a $5 card, Urgent Schedule's like a $8 card, and then you come down here, obviously the Super Dreadnoughts are both, I think this is $8, $7 or $8, this is $4, right? None of that's super duper expensive, none of that's super duper crazy, right? And we do see, obviously, Ice Dragon's Prison, and as well as the AA Zeus is in here, but other than those 2 cards, which you do kind of need to run Zeus. You're not 100% sure you need to run Ice Dragon's Prison, but there's not a whole lot of cards that are as good as Ice Dragon's Prison is right now. Just to jump right into the deck profile, triple copies of Infinitrack Harvester. This is the Stratos of the deck. Brutal Dozer, triple copies of Brutal Dozer. This is kind of the one that just it summons from the deck, which is super duper cool. Now the effects are negated, unfortunately, and he can't summon himself, but that's not really, we're trying to link summon, we're trying to XZ summon, go into plays like that, right? And then 2 copies of Infinitrack Treacher, 1 Anchor Drill, and 1 Tunneler. So Treacher is the one banishes itself to summon itself back out, and that's kind of what's really cool about this deck. And Machina works super duper well with that, where you can, it's not just about building a crazy first turn board. This deck can put up solid first turn boards, but really what this deck is trying to do, not necessarily even play the grind game, but as far as a deck that can put out a good amount of power, as well as have very solid recovery, because that's really what you're looking for in a very strong deck, is a deck that can put out a consistent first turn board, as well as recur that first turn board over and over and over again, right? And so we see Anchor Drills in here. This is the one just summons from hand. And then we see Tunneler here. Tunneler is actually the Pot of Avarice. This is all the Infinitracks that are being ran, right? And then 3 copies of Metal Cruncher, Machina Metal Cruncher. This is another Stratos of the deck, so super duper consistent. 1 Machina Fortress, 1 Machina Citadel. Actually talking to the person that piloted it, was piloted by Christian Davis, and he said that Machina Fortress of all cards is actually the MVP of the deck. He literally said he just summoned it 70,000 times. Obviously, I don't think he got that many times, but it's definitely one of the best cards in this game's history, and it's still today one of the best cards right now. Now obviously Machina Citadel is really strong. It's literally got a built-in Geki, which is super duper powerful, especially in this deck, and then just Super Express Bullet Train, as well as Heavy Freight Train. Derek Crane, these are just just for your rank 10 spam, just for more Earth machine monsters, right? That's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to spam out Earth machine monsters, right? 1 copy of Ancient Gear Box searches these cards up here, and then triple Artifact Lancia in the main deck, and triple Ash Blossom. And that's really for hand traps, other than Phantasme as well. Those are the 3-ish main, and then Cypherm Gear Gamma as well. Those are the 3 main cards we're seeing in the main. And for the spells, it's 3 copies of Machina Redeployment, 3 Heavy Forward, and 2 Urgent Schedule. But Machina Redeployment and Heavy Forward, Machina Redeployment, that's the one that's going to get you into your Metal Crutchers, into your Fortresses, into your Citadels. It's also going to get you into your Overdrives. This card plus this card plus this card, it's just it's impossible not to have the exact same first turn board every single time, because there is just so much consistency. And even 3 copies of Heavy Forward. This is a pretty interesting card, because a lot of what these Xyz monsters are trying to do is just kind of boost up how many cards they have underneath them. Well, this card does do that, and it's super duper relevant actually in this deck. And then Machina Overdrive, another sort of Strato, or not Stratos, but another sort of Pot of Avarice effect. It's only 3 that have to go back, which is super duper cool. And then we are seeing 3 Torrential Tribute and Ice Dragon's Prison. Torrential Tribute's a really easy card to get a hold of, and it's honestly one of the best cards right now in the format, especially if you are playing more of a roguish option. So many decks are trying to go second, and I think a lot of times what ends up happening is people forget Torrential Tribute exists. Like I said, Ice Dragon's Prison is one of the best trap cards, if not the best trap card right now. For this side deck, 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. It's just a really good overall side deck card. 3 copies of Dark Ruler No More. This deck is really, really good at OTKing. This deck really does, and Dark Ruler No More is one of the best options to do that. 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, 3 Solemn Judgments, 1 Imperial Order, 1 Skill Drain, and 1 Harpy's Feather Duster. Something to note as well, I was talking about how, relatively speaking, budget the main deck is, but also the side deck isn't necessarily speaking super duper. So you could kind of net deck this entire deck for less than $200. The only thing bringing it up in price is Ice Dragon Prison and Zeus, like I mentioned. Talking about the extra deck though, 3 copies of Infinitrack Goliath. This is the one where if it's sent to the graveyard, it can attach itself. Like I said, that's actually super duper relevant in this deck. But also when it's attached, it can't be destroyed by card effects, which is something that people definitely don't play around. I can definitely tell you that people don't play around this card super duper well. And I don't even pilot this deck. I just know that an effect like this is something that people would not play around super duper well, and then they go activate their lightning storms, or they go activate any form of destruction effect, and it's like, oh yeah, by the way, my cards can't be destroyed by card effects. 2 copies of Double-Headed Anger Knuckler. It's just good recursion, getting out your big rank 10s. Ancient Gear Ballista usually just searches the box. And then 1 copy of Infinitrack River Stormer. So this is kind of the main Infinitrack Xyz monster. It can detach material and either send one to the graveyard like a Tunneler or like a Treacher, or it can add it to the hands like a Brutal Dozer, or once again a Treacher, or even like a Harvester, and then Harvester can add a Brutal Dozer, right? So this is another solid main engine of the deck. And then this card can just consistently bring itself back out. And obviously all the Infinitrack monsters say that they can summon themselves back out, but this is definitely one of the better ones. 1 copy of Orcus Evening Star Dingirisu. Yeah, it's a machine. I don't know if you knew that. It's a machine monster. Like I mentioned 16 times, it's running 1 copy of a Zeus Sky Thunder. I will say this, though. This is one of the better decks to run it. I know Zodiac is the other deck that comes to mind. I honestly think this deck runs it better than Zodiac, just because Zodiac's main thing isn't necessarily speaking the battle phase. And while this deck isn't necessarily either, what's super cool about this is that there are a decent amount of monsters that actually do want to attack, that do want to do battle damage, and Zeus can just pop right up on there after that. And then we are running 1 copy of Gear Gigin X, never known how to say this card. Then 1 copy of Infinitrack Earth Slicer. Detach any materials from this card, target that many cards on the field, and destroy them. That's why I was saying cards like Infinitrack Alive, cards like Heavy Forward synergize with effects like that super duper well, right? And it also have that effect where it recurs itself back. 3100 attack. Oh, by the way, I attributed my Goliath to bring this out late in the game. A 3100 attack monster that can't be destroyed by card effects, and if it has anything that's an issue, it just literally destroys them, unless obviously it can't be targeted or destroyed. But 3100, it's that extra 100. It gets over a lot of things. It gets over a lot of things with that extra 100. But then we also are seeing 1 copy of Gustav Max just to end the game, or to start off the game strong with 2000 damage. 1 copy of Juggernaut Libre, super powerful card that also can just literally be a game ender in and of itself, especially if you pair it with Zeus, or if you're able to play a Gustav Max afterwards, or different things like that. Just 1 Phantom Fortress Enter Blather. It's also a machine monster, and then of course 1 Rail Cannon. The matchups. So round 1 was Grand Maju. It's not the worst deck ever, but round 2 was Sky Striker. That was actually his only loss of the tournament. Round 3 was like a Tune deck, which is cute. Round 4 was Phantom Knights, and then round 5 was actually pure Zodiac, which we are seeing kind of like a resurgence of that. In the top 8, Animancipator actually made its way. It's like Rock Stun Animancipator, and then the top 4 was Sky Striker back to back. So he kind of avenged his only loss of the tournament in that final round. And The only thing he mentioned about switching out would be the bit, like I said, urgent schedule, but also skill drain in the main. There are a lot of cards that just have a lot of attack, and just skill drain could be very, very, very powerful. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. I mentioned this question before, I'll ask it again. How good do you think Infinitrack Machina is during this format? And like I said, I think this is really like one of the top tier like decks of this format as far as like rogue options are concerned, right? And not necessarily speaking saying like rogue as in like bad. I think like there's like a decent amount of like rogue options, like Sky Striker's another one, Virtual World's another one, where like you can play a deck that's not necessarily speaking people are going to know a lot about, people are going to know how to like counter super well, and you can still go crazy and win the tournament. Like I mentioned, if you're looking for a deck this format that's not super duper expensive, that can actually still do super duper well and still top, this is definitely the deck, in my opinion, that you should be looking at. But like I said, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Click that like button if you want to see more deck profiles and more deck videos like this. Subscribe for even more Yu-Gi-Oh content, but most importantly of all, have a good day.